even her ad libs in her music, she like the hee hee ha ha type of stuff. And it's
Yes.
just
Mhm.
different. Like, I think even Lil Wayne talks about how Missy Elliott was a very big inspiration for him as well with the ad libs and stuff. And again, just bold. No one was doing it, paving the way for artists. She encapsulates all of that.
Welcome to Making the Brand, the podcast where marketing and pop culture collide. I'm your host, Brianne Fleming. I can't wait to chat about brands, boy bands, and everything in between. Because brands who have a pulse on pop culture can create adoring fans of their own. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Making the Brand podcast. I feel like this episode is long overdue. I'm chatting with my friend Codi-Dantu Johnson about one of her favorite people and one of her favorite things, Missy Elliott and marketing. So, hi, Codi. Thank you again for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think this will just come so naturally to you. Again, like I said, one of the favorite things you love to talk about. You're a big Missy Elliott fan, so we're going to get to that story. But
Yes.
I'd love if you could just first introduce yourself and talk about your background in social. I know you've had a few interesting jobs. I think you even have pivoted in recent months. We need to catch up. So, what's the
Yeah.
latest?
So, sure, I'll just start from the beginning. So, I started in social media marketing in 2016. I landed my first job at an agency here in San Diego. That's where I'm located. And I was there for about a year and a half managing the agency's brand account and some other clients that they had. And it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot on the job, and I learned that I really loved being in the social media realm. So I wanted to stick with that. And then after that, unfortunately, I got laid off.
Yeah.
And that's just par for the course, though, with agency jobs, unfortunately. But
Mhm.
luckily, I landed a marketing um, role in higher education for a little bit, and then went to healthcare as a social media marketer for a local hospital here in San Diego for about a year. And then after that, I went back to higher education at UC San Diego, where I managed UC San Diego admissions social media channels for also about a year.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I just recently left that job in June of 2022 to pursue freelancing full time. So that's what I do now. And I work with a tech company as a social media content creator. And I'm also managing a CEO LinkedIn profile page and also working with a tech health startup managing their LinkedIn. So I'm all social. Everything about me is social media. That's all I've ever done. And I don't see myself leaving, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun because again, with so many industries that you've worked on and different agencies and different types of clients, like there's always something different in a way that you can apply social media to that industry. So it keeps things exciting.
Absolutely. I go by my own philosophy and my own principles with social media. So, you could throw me in any industry really, and I think I could totally succeed. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And a quick sidebar, I remember might have been a year ago now, you started doing social for your son's was it karate studio?
Oh, jujitsu. Yes. I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
That was so cool. Yeah, you were kind of bartering, which I think is something we
Yeah,
don't talk about enough with social media. What a good deal.
it was. We just came up with this plan where I would post like 2 to 3 times a week on his Instagram account. And in return for free classes for my son, so I didn't have to pay the monthly fee. And it worked well for about, I would say we did it for about 3 or 4 months, and
Yeah.
then he just didn't need my services anymore, which is fine. But yeah, bartering is it's there's nothing wrong with it. I know we talk a lot about on Twitter, especially getting paid for what you do, but sometimes, if you just have some goodness in your heart where you just really want to help a client or you want to help a business
Yeah.
and they're willing to give you maybe like a free meal or like a free coffee every time you come in, I see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and you said you were at the jujitsu
Yep.
studio anyway, sitting there watching
Yeah.
your son. Might as well, do a little trade off there. I think that was a good plan and
Yeah.
cool.
It was a cool experience.
Yeah. So let's get into some background on your love of Missy Elliott. What made you a fan? Do we have to go way back for this one? Because I mean, she's been around for a while. She recently won the MTV Video Vanguard Award in 2019. I mean, she is a legend in her own right. So, what is your experience as a Missy Elliott fan, and what inspired you to write this post about marketing lessons from her?
Sure. I have been a Missy Elliott fan since I could remember. I would say maybe middle school. I'm 29 now, so years ago.
Uh-huh.
And she just, with Work It, it's just such a weird music video and such a different song that I was like, this is dope. I love this.
Yeah.
And I love her style. It's very different. And so I just really resonated with her creativity. And that's what inspired me to write this blog post, 5 marketing lessons you can learn from Missy Elliott. She's just visionary, just creative and genius. Like there's so many words I could describe, but she is very um she's just a different woman and I really respect her craft and I like to learn from her and take that and apply it to my own professional goals and my own self on how I work and the different things I can bring to marketing and obviously there are these best practices and stuff, but I do really like to be in a creative space and I just really resonate with her style.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she, like you said, I don't think anyone can really compete with her style. Like it is so originally her. And, I wasn't a Missy Elliott super fan, but I do just vividly remember her music videos. Like there was always something in there that was memorable and you would cling on to, even if you weren't a super fan, like she always made her mark with everything that she did.
Yeah, she did. And I actually listened to a few podcasts or interviews of her and she just talked about how she would blend, her parents' love for R&B and on gospel, but like using her own sound to create her own sound of hip hop and just the different influences she had and working with Timbaland, who was also just amazing. So it's just cool. Just cool
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And she actually noticed your post and reshared it.
She did.
What was
did
that moment
not
like?
I did not expect that at all. I just tweeted it and hoped people would read it, and I tagged her in it. But you tag celebrities, you don't expect them to look at your stuff. So she retweeted, quote tweeted it, and just said, "Hey, this is a great read." And I was like, "What? That's amazing!" Like I don't
Wow.
know if she actually read it, but I'm gonna assume she did. And so and then her fan base saw it, and just a lot of people reached out and said they really liked it. So I thought that was really dope to be acknowledged by her.
I'm going to assume she did. She seems like the type of person that would appreciate it. And then to get a quote tweet where, she even describes it as being great, that seems pretty genuine. So that
Yeah.
is awesome. And I would love for you to share what those 5 marketing lessons are that we can learn from Missy that you outlined in this article. The first one, I know you said that Missy is, well, first of all, I want to back up because one thing you describe Missy Elliott as being is futuristic.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a powerful word, especially when we think about art and even marketing. It's
Mhm.
kind of hard to be futuristic, especially in this field, to like try to compete and do the next big thing and do things that are cutting edge because,
Yeah.
before you know it, it's not cutting edge anymore. And it's very hard to predict the future. So I would love if you can elaborate on that, on how you see her as being futuristic in her art and her work.
Yeah, so to me, I guess her music, it's such a blend of different genres and like hip hop and like I said, her background with gospel and R&B and just blending those things together and then working with Timbaland to create a really unique sound that she even mentioned in an interview that was just so different. The radios were like, we don't know if we can even play this because it won't mix into the songs that we
Yeah.
play. So it's like they were literally creating a new sound. And I think, tying that back into like marketing is taking and fusing things from different, industries and different ways of life to create something new. So that could be like inspiration from maybe nature or, inspiration from music that you see, and then blending those things that you acknowledge into something new, a new way to market something, or, bring a conversation to something. But yeah, I think futuristic for her is just, she just knows how to fuse things together and just create something new. And I think that's what, as marketers, we're always trying to do.
Yeah. And, a lot of times marketers were tempted to look at what other people in our own industry are doing and try
Yeah.
to emulate that. Like, oh, the leading competitor is doing this. We should try doing that. And it's almost like you should do the exact opposite, I've found, or just, not conform to what they're doing, because that's clearly been done. And it's so
Right.
funny that her music wouldn't even be played because it was so dissimilar, but that's what gets noticed.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was really cool. Like, even though the radios didn't pick it up immediately, people did realize that this is a sound that we've never heard, but we do want to hear more of this, like even her writing music for Aaliyah is just like, it was a different sound, and even Aaliyah caught on board to it. So yeah, I really believe in fusing and, looking outside of what we're already in our day to day for inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing you mentioned is to be bold, and that's
Mhm.
certainly what she does. You reference in your article her song "Work It," and I love that there's a tweet that you included from 2019 where someone had just realized that that one lyric was literally reversed.
Yeah.
But it was the first of its kind, really, at least in my recent memory, of someone who experimented like that. So,
Yeah.
great point.
Yeah, I actually just realized that not too long ago either. I think that probably the same year that that tweet was made. I can't remember what year it was, but very different, very bold. Like no one's doing that. No one's saying lyrics backwards, but it's like making a sentence. Again, it's just visionary stuff. And even her ad libs in her music, she like the hee hee ha ha type of stuff. And it's
Yes.
just different. Like I think even Lil Wayne talks about how Missy Elliott was a very big inspiration for him as well with the ad libs and stuff. And again, just bold, no one was doing it, paving the way for artists. She encapsulates all of that.
Yeah, and she's not afraid to take risks, because again, clearly people still seem to not realize that that song, I mean that lyric is just kind of gibberish, but it's actually backwards.
Yeah.
And she could have said, "No, I'm not putting that out. No one's going to get it.
Mhm.
No one's going to know what this means." Even decades later, some people still don't get it. But it's almost like she planted her own sort of Easter egg or talking point into the song.
Yeah.
And that alone became like press worthy and conversational.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we tying this back into marketing, like I know recently Adidas, they came out with that. I don't know what the name of the campaign is, but they basically shared an image of women with their breasts out, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
people were like, "What the heck is this?" Like,
Yeah.
but it was bold and it made a statement of, every woman has different size breasts, and we have sports bras that fit everybody type of thing. And
Mhm.
it was bold and it was explicit, but again, maybe they're paving the way for something new to come along.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like attention is a marketer's most scarce resource, and that's always what we're
Mhm.
after. You could spend hours and hours and hours thinking you have a perfect campaign, but if it's not powerful enough to make someone kind of stop in their tracks and feel compelled to share it and spread it to other people, then what was the point? So
Yeah. Yeah,
gotta
definitely.
gotta capture attention. And we've got to be consistent too. It's probably uh, something marketers hear, but easier said than done.
Uh-huh.
So, how does Missy Elliott stay consistent, and what can we take away from her process?
Sure. So she's definitely, like I said, consistent in her style of music, her and Timbo collabing and creating those unique sounds. Every song that you hear of hers, you just know it's a Missy song, or even when she
Yeah.
starts rapping on it, you know it's a Missy song. And then I also pointed in the article her fashion sense. Like I think I shared about 4 pictures of her in hoops, nails done, her hair is always laid, just looking good. Clothing is on point. Like she's consistent all around the board, like not just with music, but with her fashion sense. And I think that's um, a big differentiator for herself as well, is those markers you'll always see are always done. The big gold hoops is just, it's a Missy
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
And I think with branding and marketing, consistency is just showing up. It's like, we talk about it all the time on Twitter, showing up for your audience in the social media realm, posting consistently. And it doesn't have to mean like posting every single day. Maybe for you it's 2 times a week you can commit to, but it's consistent for
Mhm.
yourself or for your brand. And then being consistent, not just in product or service, but for me, the biggest thing too is customer service and being there for your customers and your audience, and consistency in that way. So, while we all can't look like Missy and be really cool with the hoops and the hair and the clothing, there's still ways to take from her and just, apply some of those learnings to what we do in our day to day lives as marketers.
Yeah, and speaking of Adidas from the other example before, I mean, she loves those tracksuits
Mhm.
too, those
Yes, yes, yes.
bright and bold. And I think it's also a good reminder for marketers is that sometimes it's just in how you package an idea. Like it's
Yeah.
very hard to have an original idea these days, but if you can find a way to package it differently or present the idea and just put a little bit more creative effort into it, sometimes that's enough to stand out and be creative and have a refreshingly new kind of take on things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I love that. Next, we know that Missy loves to wow her audience. We've touched on some of the creative risks that she's taken, and also some of her fashion choices, like the garbage bag outfit. I don't recall what this is from, but
I
I'm
believe
looking at the
so.
picture of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, so what are some moments from her career where you've felt like, wow, this is literally a wow moment?
Definitely the garbage bag, which I actually just read it was not a garbage bag, but a spacesuit type of thing. But
Okay.
we'll just call it a garbage bag because it looks like one. But yeah, I believe that was from her Super Duper Fly, the Rain music video. I believe that was it, but don't quote me. I
Yeah.
should know that. Yeah, so that moment was just bizarre, but it's like, again, it's part of this futuristic persona that she's taken on. Like nobody's wearing a big old spacesuit like this in a music video with black lipstick on. It's like it's just so shocking, but you like it, like you can't turn away.
Yeah.
Um and then even with the music video she had where she literally spits in the guy's mouth in
Yes.
the music video, it's like, wait, who would even come up with something like this?
Yeah.
But it's shocking, and it's it creates that moment where people will remember you and remember your weird kind of quirky style that's like part of your whole music genre. I think that's just how she definitely encapsulates the wowing of audiences.
Yeah. And you just reminded me of another Missy moment that just popped out in my head is when she takes her head off.
Oh yes.
Is that Get Your Freak On? I think it is. Oops, correction. It was actually 1 Minute Man. Yeah, just like kind of creating these, visuals alone that are memorable. Yeah.
Yeah, and visuals are huge for marketing. I mean, that's the biggest one of the biggest ways we get people into the doors or to make a purchase or something is being extremely visual. Like that's just, and she does that so well. It's like you can't not remember Missy in a garbage bag, or Missy spitting, or Missy's head like turning backwards in the music video. Like that's just, yeah, visual aspect is so important.
That sticks with you for sure. um, so, lastly, number 5, you always mention, or you do mention, to stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
And You mentioned that that's something that Missy has done since she was in kindergarten. You say that she knew that she wanted to be a star. So how else has she exemplified being true to herself? And maybe how do you personally stay true to yourself?
Yeah. Um, I believe Missy stays true to herself just by consistently, again, putting out really good music that is her style. I mean, it's very rare that she would go in a different direction. Even now, with her new music, it's still very Missy, still very futuristic and creative. So I haven't seen her stray away from that since the 90s. And I think that's really admirable. And she's still, rocking the hoops, rocking the nails, still doing her stuff and working with Timbaland and just still just doing the things that she did back then. And I think that's really cool. But for me, staying true to me is, I guess, there's just certain things that I like about myself and things that I like to do. And I just stay with that over the years. And that could mean, for me, I'm also an athlete. So I like to be in the athletic sense of things. I also like to get my nails done. I love social media marketing. So I'm true to myself in that way and very blunt sometimes. And I sometimes have to rein it in, but like that's just how I've always been.
Never change.
So that's just like, I practice just being consistent in that way to myself every day, showing up like this is who I am, this is what I like, this is what I partake in. And, yeah, I think that's just how I would be true to myself.
Yeah. And speaking of the the athleticism and stuff, today you started a walking group on Twitter, which I am really excited about. So getting back into moving a bit. So I love it.
Good. Yeah, I was really inspired today. I just was like, let's just start this.
Let's all move. I love it. Well, that is a perfect segue because, pivoting from Missy Elliott a bit, I want to talk about you personally. And you mentioned that you consider yourself to be really blunt. And you're one of my favorite follows on Twitter because you always tell it like it is. You never sugarcoat things, but you're never afraid to say those hard truths that people need to hear working in social media. And you just keep them coming. I'm just like, damn, Codi is on fire.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So I would love to go through some of these, a few of your greatest hits, if you will, that I've pulled just recently.
Okay.
So the latest is I noticed that you did some research on a company that used a tagline or an agency that said, "We're not your typical agency." So what did you do after that? What is that story? I want you to let everyone know.
So I frequently peruse LinkedIn for social media job postings, just to see what's out there. And I saw this one agency and I was interested in the job. And so I looked, at their website and I saw they had the tagline, "We're not your typical agency." And so I'm like, okay, like, what does that mean? What is typical? So I just was like, let me just be Codi and just be curious. So I Googled, "We're not your typical agency," and I wouldn't say hundreds, but a lot of results came up on the first page. All of these agencies saying that we're not your typical agency, we're a different agency, we do things differently. And I couldn't tell you, maybe like 10 plus agencies had the same tagline. And so I'm like, so who is our typical agency? And so that's kind of just what came out from that tweet. And I shared it on LinkedIn too. But it was more so just not poking fun at the agencies, but to just kind of be cautious of who we're applying for or like the type of brands or the agencies we work with if we do end up hiring agencies, like a lot of marketers are looking for that help and support. It's like, are we going to get the best work possible? So I'm just curious that way. That's where that came from.
I love it. And I think it's just so ironic that These are supposed to be some of the most creative people on the planet working in agencies, and
Yeah.
they're used to doing the same old copy. So now I'm curious too. I want to know who your typical agency is. Maybe that's a new name for your future agency, Cody. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, seriously. That's funny.
So funny. So you also mentioned just now that yes, you do use LinkedIn to look for jobs and opportunities and to network with people. And I've
Mhm.
had this weird realization in my life lately that I feel like I'm actually having fun on LinkedIn. I don't know what's happening to me. So you also
That's
said that
it.
LinkedIn is the place to be. So tell us more about your love of LinkedIn and maybe how people can get more power out of LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is you are literally LinkedIn. Like you can link with people that work at these companies that you want to work at or that you want to, hire out from. And you're talking to like real people on there and making real business deals there. And I found that it's really valuable to share. I share a lot on Twitter, but I take a lot of that and also put it on LinkedIn or just, pull from my blogs and share that content on LinkedIn. There's a lot of professionals in that space who are looking for expertise that we all have. And I think
Mm.
everyone has a voice that they can share there. And it really is just a place to share your expertise, share what you know, share interesting articles, same as you would on Twitter. Being really consistent there and even getting in those DMs. I mean, and you don't have to be weird about it or robotic, or trying to be salesy, but just really reach out to someone who may have maybe in the same position as you or someone you want aspire to be and just say, hey, like I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. I really thought it was cool that you worked at so and so. I used to work in the same industry, just like really starting those conversations. I actually ended up connecting with a young lady on there who was in the same industry as me. She works in social media, and I was just looking for people to connect on there, outside of California. And I found her profile and I messaged her and said, I just want to connect, and like we both work in social media and I want to befriend you and maybe we could work together or give each other business. And she actually sends me a lot of opportunities. And I ended up working with a
Wow.
few people that she sent my way. So, and I do not know this. I don't know her at all. Like I've never met her in person. I've also sent her opportunities. When I worked at UC San Diego, she was able to go there and speak on a couple occasions. So really, it's just you just have to be personable and not so robotic like what we normally see on there.
Yeah.
But the opportunities are definitely there.
Yeah, and speaking of being personable, I think also personalization is so
Yeah.
important when you're reaching out to people because like every DM is so canned.
Yeah.
And I found if you just take the time to say one personal thing about the person that you're connecting with to let them know that you actually see them as a real person and you didn't just blanket request the entire website, like that goes a long way. So I love that approach. And I love
Yeah.
that it's working for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, okay, another very straightforward tweet, but someone had to say it. You said, "Hey brands, having a sassy social media account is not a marketing strategy.
Uh,
Please sound off on this."
okay. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to hate me for this one, but I personally do not like the sassiness that I've been seeing from some social accounts on Twitter. You know, uh, there's just a time and place, and there's a brand too. Like if you're not normally sassy, but you see Wendy's doing it, or like a Duolingo, or we see
Mhm.
Wingstop, it's like if that's not really who you are, and you're trying to take on this brand and have this certain perception. It's just I don't think it works. It's not a strategy. It may get you a million likes and views and whatnot, but are you just going to continue doing that? Because now you have to keep up this whole persona, and then you lose yourself in the way of actually being who your brand originally was. So I'm just not a fan of um being sassy for the sake of sassy, because obviously it gets views, like I said, and likes and retweets and whatnot, but it's just not. tasteful in my eyes unless that's who you are as a brand. But a lot of these brands, I assume, are just, they're not that way. And like, if I walked into your store, would you be sassy as well? Like, I just,
Yeah.
it's just not for me. I'm just not a fan of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I'll back you up on it, so no one's going to come for you. Not on this podcast. But, and I think it's unfortunately blurred the lines of what brand voice is and what brand personality is, because now I feel like you say brand personality, or at least I'll mention that in my class, or I'll mention it to someone, and like people assume you have to be sassy to have a personality.
Right.
And that's not the case with real people and real relationships. Like you could be funny, you could be like there's so many different types of personalities
Yeah.
besides just sassy. So
Yes. And even the whole intern, this is a little different, but the intern trope that we always see, like, oh, an intern's tweeting from the account. It's like,
yeah,
okay, how many times are we gonna do this one, you
so
know?
old. Yeah, I know. It's so
Yeah.
tired. So, lastly, I'd love if we could talk about this newish trend that we're seeing in the UGC space with
Yeah.
UGC creators popping up, people that are being paid to create kind of polished, not, I wouldn't say super polished, but very personal UGC user generated content for brands to share on their personal accounts. And it looks like it's coming from a true customer or from someone who was sent product, and the brands are taking those and repurposing them. And you
Mhm.
brought up a very good question, asking, is sharing paid UGC fabricating content for the sake of the brand? And you mentioned that it seems inauthentic. So yeah, any other thoughts on that, or what do we do now? What is this? What is going to happen with this space?
I, I don't know. I'm a little confused as to even how it started, this UGC creator trend. Because UGC to me, and as defined on the internet at least, is publish information from an unpaid contributor to
Hmm.
any sort of website, and that, or, it could be a photo, a video, a blog, poll, anything, but it's unpaid. And so when you start putting UGC and creator together, obviously that means somebody is a paid creator. And so
Hmm.
you could be UGC because it's not, the definition is unpaid. So you'd be maybe like a micro influencer at this point, or just a paid creator. But I think it's definitely, like you said, inauthentic to hire these people to create this UGC looking content, but it's not really UGC because they're not actual users of the product you hired them. So,
Yeah.
it's just, where do we draw the line in our industry with these terms that are constantly being created, when they're really just the same term as an influencer, or just a general creator of
Yeah.
content. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, hopefully these brands are doing some serious vetting and
Yeah.
are at least hoping that these people are their true target audience, or people who genuinely like the product. Um, I think that's all we can hope for. Otherwise, it does kind of seem like you're just being sold something that, isn't
Yeah.
really true or doesn't make sense. But, you know, I think what bothers me more, or what would maybe make it better, is if brands paid for UGC that people just kind of posted on their own will. And if you want to reshare it to your account,
Huh.
then you have to pay the creator. But I don't think that's really realistic. I mean, some people want to, myself included, want to shout out brands that they genuinely love.
Yeah.
But what also grinds my gears, probably even more than any of this, is when brands take tweets that have nothing to
Oh,
do with them and
yes.
share the screenshots. Like
Uh,
I'm sure you've had tweets. I had a tweet shared by the Home Edit, and one was shared by Girl Boss. And like, I didn't
wow.
even know one of the until I had friends sending them, sending the screenshots to me. And I feel like if you're a brand and you're going to take a tweet where no one even mentioned you or directed it to you, and
Mhm.
just repurpose it to create community for your own brand, that, I don't know. I don't love that.
Did they didn't ask for your permission to use it?
No.
Oh yeah, see, that's where I'm in the same boat with you in that one. I've seen some of my tweets used, and I'm like, wait, you didn't even ask me. Like,
Yeah,
I should be getting paid for this. It's like $500 a tweet if you're gonna post it,
exactly.
you know?
And
But
it's
like,
like they
yeah,
reshare it on Instagram. I'm like, okay, why didn't you share it on Twitter? Because that's clearly
yeah,
where I'm saying this piece of content. That's clearly where I'm trying to grow an audience. And then yeah,
mhm,
big deal. You tagged me on this other platform, but that's not where I'm investing my time. So it means nothing to me.
right.
So
Maybe we'll get to a point where we'll have like Twitter influencers and we get paid, for our tweets to be placed on
yeah.
Instagram. I don't know, because that's happened to me too. So, and a lot of other people we know. So,
Yeah, because these brands are using other people's tweets to portray
yeah,
their culture
yeah,
and like, appear funny or relatable. And it's like, okay, maybe if you want, but you have to pay for it because otherwise that's not your words. It's plagiarism, in my opinion.
right. And what if, me as a user, I don't rock with your brand like that. Like,
Oh,
you know,
true.
like what if I had a bad experience or something and you didn't even know and
Yes.
you're over here putting my name with your brand? I think they have to be really careful with that.
Exactly. I kind of had those feelings with girl boss. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
girl boss, like people don't even, we don't like that phrase anymore. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
weird. And yeah, they did exactly that. So now that you mention it, I'm fired up.
We're going to start charging folks now. That's
Yes,
it.
yes. So, well, I love this. Keep saying things louder for the people in the back.
I got you.
Keep saying what you've got to say. Keep telling us the hard truths in this industry because you're
Yeah.
crushing it. You have so many awesome things to say. I really enjoy following you. And I hope to meet up with you in San Diego one of these days, one of my favorite cities.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, there's a few of us that are we're trying to plan a marketing meetup type of thing, but it's more like a retreat. So
Oh, West
it's
Coast
a,
style.
yeah, possibly, or some other place. But we're talking about it. So I'm hoping we can get like a bunch of people together and in person would be really fun.
All right. Well, yeah, keep me posted. We can
Yeah.
put on a Missy Elliott playlist and have a good time. So,
Absolutely.
Codi, where can people follow you?
Sure.
Anything you want to promote? I know you're a Wheel of Fortune star as well. So many things to highlight.
Yeah, yeah, Wheel of Fortune. I was on there. My episode aired Thanksgiving Day, so if you're interested, I think you could find it. Season 39. Um, I am on Twitter. You can follow me at Codisha with two A's, Codishaa. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me Codi-Dantu Johnson. I also am on Instagram, my business Instagram, which I'm not using very often, but when I'm inspired, I am there. Mini Media Marketing, and marketing is MKTG. So find me, follow me, and I'd love to chat.
Perfect. Thank you again. And yeah, hopefully this won't be the last time we have conversations like this. I always enjoy talking to you. So thank you so
Yeah.
much, Codi.
Thank you for the opportunity.
If you're a fan of this podcast, be sure to subscribe, or better yet, leave a review. For marketing wisdom with a pop culture twist sent straight to your inbox, sign up for my newsletter at briannefleming.com/newsletter, or find me on Twitter at Brianne2K. As always, thanks for listening.